Do you want to level up your macro photography? Then one of the best tips is to add a flash to your macro setup. However, flash is tricky, and there are so many different flash systems out there which can either help you or make things more difficult for you. So in this video, I'll share why I use the system that I do use and why I choose not to use other systems out there. Let's get to it. There are a few different things that you should look out for. First of all, ease of use. Second, flexibility. Thirdly, control over the lighting direction. And fourthly, control over the hardness of the light. So with this in mind, let's take a look at the different types of flash systems and why you may or may not want to use each of them. First, I need to get this out of the way. The internal flash is completely useless for macro photography in itself. Now I've said it, sorry if I offended someone. So to start with, it has a fixed position behind the lens. And in macro photography, you get so close to your subject that the lens often blocks the light coming from the flash. Because the internal flash is fixed, it's also hard for you to model the light. You cannot change the direction in any way. Some try to overcome some of these drawbacks by creating their own homemade diffusers using paper, a small tube and some tape. It can work, but it's also quite a fragile setup. I would rather spend my time capturing shots. I really don't recommend using it. So let's move on. Now, next up is the external flash with a diffuser. You can either mount it on the camera using the hot shoe, or you can hold it off to the side. You can still experience the macro lens casting shadows onto your subject. However, a flash diffuser can help you overcome this issue. I've used this system for many years. I currently use another one, which we'll get to in a minute. If you use it off camera and trigger it remotely, you can change the position of the light entirely. However, this requires you to hold the flash in one of your hands or have it on a tripod, and this slows you up a bit. Depending on how shaky your single hand camera handling is, you might miss the focus on more shots. If you also need to maybe hold a flower or the stamen of a plant with one hand, you're forced to use a tripod with this setup. Now you can also mount the external flash on a set of brackets and thereby you fixate the flash a little bit away from the camera body. However, you need to buy a bracket system, and when you want to use it, you'll have to spend the time putting the setup together and tightening each screw. The more pieces you have in your setup, the more time it'll take to get ready. As with all macro flash systems, you absolutely need a light modifier or like a diffuser to spread the light evenly and make it look soft and natural. Now, you can choose a custom-made diffuser for your specific flash or craft one by yourself. Unless you move the external flash away from the camera hot shoe, you can only front light your subject, which is a major drawback as it can make your subject look flat. However, it's still better than the internal flash or no flash at all, as it draws out the details in your subject and allows you to shoot with a narrow aperture, handheld. So let's move on to the next type of macro flash that you can get. And this is a macro ring flash. It's a circular flash that fits around on the front of your lens. First of all, a ring flash provides an even illumination. Because the source of light is attached to the front of the lens can't cast any shadows over your subject. And diffusion is often built into ring flashes. However, even though it's easy to use, you can't control the position of the flash very easily. If you want to go this route, at least make sure you go with a model where you can control the left and right side of the ring individually. However, front lighting is still the only option with a ring light. So now we come to the good stuff. Now there are two types of flash systems that I would recommend. I've used both of them. Currently I only use one of them. The first one is a twin macro flash system mounted on the front of the lens. It gives you the even illumination of a ring flash, but it does give you a little bit more. Usually the flash units rotate on the front of the lens, giving you more flexibility to position the light according to your environment where you shoot. It also gives you a bit more to play with side lighting or angle light than ring lights. The flash units can be fired together or independently, and therefore you can have side light without needing an external flash. So it's a very versatile system that gives you more control over the lighting without thinking too much about it. I used to use this kind of system when I first started out in macro photography, and I was very happy about it. But I haven't got one of these systems right now, but I am looking to upgrade my macro kit with this kind of setup. I haven't tried it myself yet, but I think that the Godox MF12K2 kit and the Godox trigger looks interesting. You can combine it with other flashes or add flashes, have the flashes completely off the front of the lens and place them everywhere you like. So this is very flexible, but as I said, I haven't tried it yet, so it's not a suggestion, but I would like to look into it. So if you have used this system, please drop me a comment below and give me your thoughts about it, and maybe everybody will learn something. The system that I currently use, and one I'm very happy with, is looking a bit odd. It's a twin macro flash system with flexible arms. It really gives you more freedom to choose the position of light, and the setup time is very minimal. The flash system is mounted in the hot shoe. You don't need to mount anything on the front of the lens. The arms can have a length of like 30-40 centimeters ish, and it gives you enough space to position them around the subject or anywhere you like, and even make it illuminate the background. The one I used, the Venus Macro Twin KX800, adjust the power of each flash individually very easily, but it's a manual system, so you don't get any help from TTL. That's through the lens data. However, it doesn't really make it more difficult to use. You just have to fire a couple of test shots and adjust your ISO, and you're ready to go. My go-to camera setting with this setup is a shutter speed of 1/250th of a second, ISO 400, and with the flash set to 1/128th to 1/64th of the flash power for natural looking fill light. Of course, with any of the systems, if you add extra layers of diffusion or the composition requires more light, you'll likely need to bump up the flash power a bit. But actually, I've never used it at full flash power or even half. Tell me whether you prefer to work exclusively with natural light or use macro flash, because natural light is also an option. Now, macro photography often needs flash. Whether you want to increase the sharpness, the clarity, reduce the risk of blurred images, use a deeper depth of field, create artistic effects, or just to get enough light, flash is a very useful addition to your gear, and it helps you bring out a lot more details in your macro photos. Dedicated macro flash units may be expensive. However, if you invest in a good setup, it will improve your images for many years to come. Imagine how many wildflowers, insects, droplets, and snowflakes you'll be able to photograph when you control the source of light. With a flash setup like the one I suggest, you're ready to take some amazing handheld shots of beautiful bugs and insects. However, to get great shots of insects, you need to use the tips that I share in this video up here. See you over there.